Welcome to this episode of the Divine Council Worldview Podcast. We're your hosts, Rich and Mel, and today our guest is going to be Jeremy Keys. Jeremy is the pastor of Advanced Church in Calgary, Alberta, as well as he and his wife Matilda are the directors at Calgary Dream Center. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on, man. I got to be honest. I lived in Bellingham near the Canadian border. So hearing your voice just reminds me of all my Canadian friends, and just I absolutely love it. I couldn't get enough. I mean, obviously I grew up loving Canadians because of the movie Strange Brew, eh?
Sure, of course.
Hoser. You know,
Absolutely.
that was like the best Canadian propaganda like ever, because everyone loved it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
exactly. Well, we'll be talking to him today, but a couple things that we wanted to talk about first is that in May 2nd and 3rd, Friday, May 2nd and 3rd, we will be having a small conference in Anderson, Indiana. It will hold about 150 people. Dr. Ron Johnson will be there speaking. Me and Mel will be there. Brian Shields, who was on the podcast a few months ago, will be there, as well as we asked his pastor to do so. And then if I can find someone else to replace me to speak, then I will do so. So we just wanted to let you know that it is a free weekend. Drina and the foundation have been kind enough to want to sponsor and support this. So everyone will be able to come for free, which is excellent. We're hoping really we're going to talk about the divine image and some of the other supernatural topics that we like to get into, that Dr. Johnson will. But the real hope is that many of us who come to this will be encouraged and find other people to be able to fellowship and relate with within your area. You know, I'm thinking about our friends Trevor out there who emailed us in Fort Wayne, you know, who really are the inspiration to do it in Indiana. So we just thank you guys for that email that you sent. And so we'll be doing that. We don't have a sign up list yet, or nothing officially put out. But yeah, again, there's 150 seats already. 10% are taken up from some of my friends. But if you would like to preemptively do so, you can send us an email at miclotrich@gmail.com, and we'll hold your place when the official sign up list comes out. I'll put your name on there. And so please look forward to that. Please be praying for that, because we do hope it's a good time. It's a good time. And again, just so grateful to Drina that we don't have to charge anybody anything, that they were willing to pay for all of us to get out there and the things that we need. So thank you so much, Drina, for all of that. Is there any other news that we have? First of all, I forgot to say the name, apparently, of Dr. Michael Bennett's book last time when we interviewed him. So it is called Two Masters and Two Gospels, Volume 1 by Dr. J. Michael Bennett. So thank you. We are not good at our jobs.
Dr. Future.
AKA the Fuge. The Fooch. Yeah. All right. Anything else, sir?
I felt like there was something we needed to say, but it suddenly has escaped me.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we met. Yeah, I'm getting near 50. Now, we met Jeremy. He emailed us from one of the podcasts, emailed us and shared us his story about how he came to find Mike's work. And it's so interesting. You know, I mean, this is why we do this, because we all have a familiar story like this that many of us had sought for so long. The Lord had been, pastors and, ministers and missionaries or whatever it had been, and had, never heard these things. So we're grateful to have you here, Jeremy. Welcome again, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Honestly, it's I'm really honored, and I'm blessed, and I'm grateful to be with you.
Well, before we start, there's two things we're going to do. The first, it is a very special day, not just because you're hanging out and talking with us, but because it's your son's 20th birthday.
Yep. My son Terrell turns 20 today. I got two kids, and my daughter Isabel. Her birthday's actually next week. They're both February, so she's turning 23. He's 20 today, and it's weird not having I got adult kids now. Teen years are done, the child years are done, but we're blessed because we've managed to build a really good. God's been gracious to us. Great family. We're all very close. Spending a lot of time together. My daughter is in early education. She's going to be an elementary teacher. My son He actually played a year of basketball at Ambrose University last year, but they didn't really have a program he was interested in. He's like, Dad, I've been playing basketball my whole life. He's actually he's been a provincial champion, which would be state champ for you, basketball, football, track, all of them.
Wow.
Played college, but he's like, you know what, Dad, I'm tired. I want to get on with my life. And when you know, you know. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So now he's slowly moving into trades. He's going to be a plumber, wants to be a journeyman plumber. And yeah, we're excited for him. He's making good choices. Love our children.
Well,
Thanks for the opportunity to say that, too.
Yeah, happy birthday, Terrell.
Yeah,
I look
that's
forward to
awesome.
meeting you
That's a
sometime
blessing.
when we get up there. As I mentioned before, I
Oh, yeah. Come
really
on.
hope
we'll do
to
it.
get up there.
That's right.
And now I'm going to share my only Calgary, Alberta related story that I have.
Yeah.
I think Jeremy will understand it when I'm done here. But about 24 years ago, I just started walking with the Lord, maybe 2 months prior. This is like October 2001. And I was driving down the road in Northern California, and I had my Ford Ranger. Green Ford Ranger was awesome. And I'm driving down the road, and on the side of these two young women walking with full suitcases, like big suitcases, like you're going to the airport. But the direction they were walking, there was nothing for like 7 miles. Like I was like, where are they going? But I said in my mind, I just started walking with the Lord. The last thing I'm going to do is pick up two beautiful women on the road because I don't want to get in any trouble. As soon as that said in my mind, I don't know how to explain this, but across my eyes flashed some sort of vision, and I knew immediately that I had to go back and pick them up. And I was like, all right. So I went back, pulled over, and I said, hey, excuse me, what's going on? And they were just like, oh, we're waiting for our brother, so we're going to head to somewhere. I said, look, the way you're going, there is nothing. You're going to walk for 3 hours, and you're not going to find anything with these luggage. I said, back down the road here a couple miles is a coffee shop. I said, can I take you there while you wait, so that you're not walking around? They said, yes, tossed their bags in. We went and sat down for coffee, and we talked for about 3 hours. And I mean, I told them all about Jesus. That's just all that was going to happen. I was like, this is it. So I asked them what was going on, and it turned out the house that they were staying, that their brother had, prepared for them, because they are from Calgary, that they had prepared for them. The guy was like doing a lot of coke and being very inappropriate to the girls, like, sexually and things like that. And I was like, oh man, well, you want to fight that? I said, okay. And so we waited 3 hours, and their brother never called or came. And I said, listen, I live right down the road. I live with two other brothers. You are safe. Please, you can come over and wait there with your brother. We'll make you dinner, and you can hang out in here. I was like, there's no danger. And so we brought them over, and we made them dinner. And a couple hours later, their brother shows up, and I open the door, and I say, hey man, God bless you, I'm rich. And this guy, I mean, he's about 5'7", but he is ripped, absolutely ripped. And I'm just like, whoa. And he comes in, and like, we start talking, and we're talking for like 15 minutes. And he looks at me, he says, I've never heard anyone say the word God as much as me, but you do. And so we had a nice long conversation, and he's like, I'm in town for this gig. He said, my sisters are supposed to stay at this house. I need them somewhere for 2 days. And so, we all got together, and we're like, they can stay here. We have an extra room. You know what I mean? You're not like, I don't know how good that is. I definitely wouldn't do that now, probably, but we were like, you're safe here to stay here. And so over the course of those next 2 days, we actually led the younger one to the Lord. We sat, she got baptized and everything. We had a great time, talking. Well, eventually they were telling me this story about, their brother who, his name, I think it was Michael, who died at the age of 12. And like, it really hurt them. They were like, this is our angel. This is like our little brother. And, so we were talking about those things and getting very serious and stuff like that. And I said, so what are you guys doing here anyway? Like, why are you in town? Our brother's a wrestler. And so he's here for a wrestling thing. His name was Teddy Hart. He was part of the Annis family. BJ Annis?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
These were their children.
Yeah.
That I picked up off the side of the road.
The Hart family is Calgary royalty. Like that's Bret the Hitman Hart. Yeah, Owen Hart. Like
that's right.
Some of their other kids. I had one that was a teacher for me, and all they would do is, hey, why is Owen and Bret? Why are they feuding right now? Well, there's family stuff that's going on. It's just so funny.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I want to come up there, because I haven't gotten contact with them for 20 years. I actually wrote letters back and forth between a few of us a couple times, but for whatever reason, through Facebook, Twitters, whatever, I haven't been able to find them. But that's my famous Calgary, Alberta story. Yeah, no, I can't wait. All right, so let's dive right in. Why don't you start by telling us, some about your life leading up to, finding Mike and such.
Sure. So, my wife and I got married young. We are our 28th anniversary coming this summer. So we got married very early 20s, went off to Bible school. So I wasn't serving the Lord well. Grew up in a Christian home. But my mom was killed in a car accident, when I was 8 years old on Christmas morning. We were going from one grandparents to another grandparents. Winter, Calgary, we're blessed. We get these warm Chinook winds. It can be very warm here, but it can also be very cold if they're not there. So it was a cold morning. It was icy. My dad just misjudged an intersection. We slid through, T-boned. Anyways, I was in the accident. I had a lot of recovery, smashed jaw, pelvis. My dad's spine was twisted. He lived. And actually, I'll start this out this way by saying, so interesting when you can look back and see God's hand on your life. Because this was 84. Remember, guys, back in those days, you didn't wear seatbelts. He's jumping on the back seat. I remember sitting in the back window, like laying down when you had that little platform. Like it was a free for all.
Yeah.
And we're driving through and we didn't have our seatbelts on. And it was literally 30 seconds before the accident. And my mom turned around to me because I was behind her and my sister was behind my dad. And she said, guys, put your seatbelts on. And so we never did that. And so we put our seatbelts on, but unfortunately they didn't. So 30 seconds later, bang. I remember waking up. I was in the other people's car. And I remember coming to, and I'm like, where am I? And I had this scarf on my head. So I kind of pull it and it's full of blood. And I look, I'm in shock. I'm trying to get a grasp of where I am. So I kind of see my sister. She's there. She ended up being okay. She just had a cut. But then I looked to my left and I saw my mom out there. And I remember thinking, people that are alive, I'm 8 years old, people that are alive aren't bent that way. And so I knew so I turned to my sister and I said, hey, do you want to go say goodbye to mom? And she was like, no, she's very scared. So she's 4 years younger. I was 8, she was 4. So okay, I need to stay with her. But I didn't realize my pelvis was smashed. Anyway, I wouldn't have been able to walk. So anyways, get through the day and whatever. I'm at the Children's Hospital. My dad's at another hospital. But it was great chaos. So the weeks of recovery, and then you get back in to life. Back in those days, you didn't do counseling. That wasn't really a thing. You know what I mean? And add to that, my dad, just because of jobs and stuff, he moved a lot. So the year my mom died, I went to like 3 different schools. We moved a lot. And you're cool in one place, you're a loser in another place. And it happened so much, and you'd get bullied or not bullied. So it became, my childhood in many ways it was prison rules. You have to beat someone up your first day at a new school just to say, don't mess with me. So I got into this cycle of anger, and my dad, just in the space he was in, and he got remarried, started having other kids. And then it's just hard for him to get over. I don't know if he ever really forgave himself even to this day. And because he feels like it was his fault. And so I was just an angry young man. So by the teenage years, I'm out fighting because it was the only thing that made me feel good, was just beating on people.
Yeah, it's crazy how when you're hurt or something like that, you're like, I need someone to punch me in the face so that I feel.
Yeah, that's right. I'll punch you, you punch me, we'll all...
we used to also
get through for another day.
Yeah, we also used to like cut ourselves and things like that. Similar thing.
Exactly. So as carry on, and I'm trying to, I want to serve the Lord. I loved God, but I was just broken. Then I'm at my Christmas party, and I worked at a hotel then, and I worked with this girl who brought her friend. Okay. This girl I worked with was Jamaican. She brought her friend that night, and I'm like, oh man, who's this cute girl? And I was super shy. And so it took a little bit, we always joke about it now. I needed a little bit of liquid courage in order to talk to her. You know what I mean? Just a little. Yes. And I started talking to her. It turns out, so she's Haitian. She's from Haiti. I fell in love the night I met her. I fell in love with her, but I wasn't in a great place. And when I found out that she was a strong believer, that's when I was like, oh, I'm a Christian too. And she's like, oh, you're not. And I'm like, no, I promise. I love Jesus. I'm telling you. And so I got her number. We started talking, and I somehow tricked her into marrying me. But she really was God's hand of grace. My wife's name is Matilda. Mathilde in French, because of course Haitian is a French. Haiti is a French country. And so he was God's hand of grace, or she was God's hand of grace to me. And you know what? Got married, moved north of here to a city called Edmonton, went to Bible college, came back after Bible college, got into ministry. Okay. But the problem is that I had never dealt with all my heart issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I had now figured out how to kind of act the part, but I had never dealt with all this stuff. So go into ministry, find out very quickly, I'm not great at this because I've never learned how to have good interpersonal relationships with people, because my interpersonal relationships, so I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And so now I'm fighting, I'm arguing. After about a year, I'm like, I just failed out. Not a moral failure, just I'm bad at this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like a real failure because I'm like, the one thing I actually wanted to do, my grandfather was a missionary all over the world, led thousands of people to Christ. He's my hero in ministry, planted churches all over, have pastors in my family. The one thing I'm like, hey, I can do this. And I'm like, nope, can't do it. So I go into construction, and I call it the 5 greatest years of hell, but also the 5 best years of my life at the same time. Because the guy I worked for, he did everything, and I learned how to do everything. Is the only thing I don't have experience in construction is concrete. I've done some of everything else. So jack of all trades, master of none. But this guy that I worked for, I call him the dream crusher, because he just had this way. And he's passed away now. Years later, I actually thanked God for the role he played in my life. But he was brutal, man. He was a backslidden Christian. I knew him through the church, had walked far away from the Lord, and he was miserable too. And he wouldn't yell. Some construction guys, they're yelling at you. No, he wasn't that. But he just had this way of insulting anything you liked, any dream you had. And he had this high-pitched voice. I always have to do it. Oh, yeah, it's stupid. Oh, yeah, you're dumb. Jeremy, nice guy, but doesn't really know what he's talking about. Like, it was just, this is all you heard every day, okay? So by Friday, and you often work Saturday, Saturday, I felt like a failure. I didn't become who I wanted to be. I've been in this brutal atmosphere all week, just being beaten down emotionally. I just want to forget my problems. So I would grab a drink. My wife didn't like it, but she doesn't know what to do with this miserable guy. She's like, okay, if it's going to make you happy one night, I guess. But I didn't realize my mom's side of the family. So my father's side of the family were believers. They're pastors. My mom's side of the family are all unbelievers. Okay. And in fact, my dad led my mother to Christ after he married her. It was one of those. It worked out. Often it does.
Nice date to save, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So she came to Christ, but literally everyone else was a disaster. And I didn't know anything about it. Years later, I looked through our family tree, and the amount of addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, even into occultism, like it was wild. So I didn't realize that I had plus the trauma, and I always knew I had ADHD. Like that was a given. I got diagnosed as an adult a few years ago, because I'm just like, that's why I can do full-time jobs, and just I got energy up the wazoo. But so all of these things, they add together, and I didn't realize what an addictive personality I had. So you know what? Pretty soon Monday was a bad night. Then Wednesday was a bad night. And before I knew it, I was drinking every single night. And it became, within a few months, 6 months maybe, I realized, I'm like, oh man, I have a problem. I don't know if I'm going to be able to quit this. Now, by this time, I've left this guy. Okay. And it was around the same time, and I'm shifting into actually becoming the maintenance manager, facility manager for a private Christian school here. And so I'm drinking and going every night. And the thing is that in the end, and I'll share it, what happens as the Lord leads me into healing. But my wife, Matilda, always felt like I was cheating on her with the alcohol, because I was. That was where my affections lied. That's where, I was thinking about it constantly. What am I going to say tonight? I would grow up in a very shame-based Christian home. You hid your sin. So I didn't go to bars. I didn't go to pubs. Like I would hide to drink. When it was winter, I would be we had a separate garage and I would be in there trying to, with a little space heater, just trying to stay warm, drinking all night. In the summer, we're close to like like at this aqueduct, and there's rivers that run by, and there's places where no one goes. So I could just ride my bike over. And now we didn't have a lot of money, so I'm drinking 40s because they're cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And say bum beer, Steel Reserve.
Exactly. They do the job. And so, I'm just every night, it's like, okay, what am I going to say tonight? Where am I going to go? Fast forward 4.5 years. The doctor comes, I go to, see the doctor, and she says, you've destroyed your liver. Okay. There's nothing we can do. If you can quit, maybe it'll heal, but you've done some very extensive damage. And the reason why is that I thought you had to drink 20 years hard liquor before that was a scenario.
Yeah.
Right. But I was also taking prescription sleeping pills at the same time, where I would visit different doctors, get sleeping pills, and I would do it not because I needed to sleep, but because they gave me a buzz. So you're supposed to take 1 or half. I would take 10 while I'm drinking. Like that's Hollywood kill celebrity type stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why they're like, you've destroyed your liver. And so the Lord basically gave me a choice. He's like, I'm going to give you the option of how to get out of this, or, you're going to have to go through the consequences. That's the way you feel. So I'd shifted over to this school, and I had confided with my boss there, the CFO, what was going on. And they could have fired me because I had a couple of screw ups. But he was so gracious to me. In fact, to this day, he's still there, and he's, I think, his late 70s, early 80s. But I owe that man an eternal debt of gratitude. He kicked my butt when I needed it, but he was so gracious. Like he was just a hand of God to me. So at this school, like I do my best work, or I'm able to do the most fixing of the building when it's a break, Christmas break, spring break, summer break. That's when it's like, you're just right to the wall with work, so much work. So this particular year I had so much work to do. Okay. And I basically, I would start, and not only that, we had to move out. We had our son, Terrell. Okay. We were in this little duplex in this community in Calgary, too small for 2 kids. I'd had my daughter, I'd had my son now, didn't have a lot of room. We're like, hey, we need to buy a bigger house. All right. So this was the crash of 2008 when the economy tanked. So we didn't have a lot of money, but we went out looking, and we found this house that was a few neighborhoods down, a step up in neighborhood, and big yard. I'm a gardener, just was everything we needed. And we're like, well, I don't have any money, but let's put a bid on it. As we ended up getting it for 100,000 less than they were offering, because no one was buying and they had to get out. The problem is that nobody was buying these homes in this area. We lived in a very lower working class area, and people were not buying homes there. Yeah. So I had to get this thing rented, because the homes have been on the market for 10 months, like duplexes. Okay. And I had to get this thing looking well. So I was going to have to renovate it. So what happened is that, starting on Canada Day, which is July 1, I went to work, and I worked from 7 till 4 p.m. straight. Okay. Now you're drinking, you're smoking. So I'm smoking cigars, and I would leave during the day to go do this. Not only that, all the alcohol I had, for me, very big. I ballooned up to 240 pounds. Okay. I'm big. My wife came 2 weeks before this, and she slaps this paper down on the table. Like, she's already fed up with me. In her mind, she's like, this is the last straw. And I wasn't abusive or anything. I went out with the alcohol every night. Yeah. So she comes home and she slaps this paper down on the table, and I open it up and I look at it. And do you remember Dr. Bernstein weight loss clinics? Did you guys it was American. Vaguely. So I don't think they're around anymore, but she had signed me up for Dr. Bernstein weight loss. And we didn't have a ton of money. And I looked at it, and it was $2,000. Okay. And that's a lot in Canada. It's probably about $15 American, but that's neither here nor there. That says $2,000. And I look at it, and something connected, like the Lord, and I was like, oh man, I'm like, I need to honor this. So a few days later, like I said, Canada Day, I got it. I got all this work at the school that has to be done. Now I have to renovate this home because I was in no shape to look after renters. We could not carry 2 mortgages. I was in no shape. We were like, it was a mess. I had to get this house sold. So from 7 a.m. till midnight, every day for 30 days, I renovated straight. I was 32, I believe, at this time. I didn't have time to smoke. I didn't have time to drink. And I basically stopped eating because Bernstein's 1,000 calories or less a day. Those first 2 weeks were the hardest weeks of my life, shaking, but I was powering through. In other words, and then by the end of the summer, so within 30 days, I was done. I was done drinking. I was done smoking. By the end of the summer, I'd lost 55 pounds.
Wow.
And we took possession of our home at the beginning of September. So it was this summer. So the Lord, what he did, and this is what he does. He's like, not only am I going to help you get out of this, you got to do the work though, Jared. I had to do the work. So I'm going to help you get out of this, but there's a blessing that's going to come at the end of this. And we moved into this incredible home that has been the place where this family has grown, and loves Jesus, and God has done things through. And so, and it took a few years. We had to go through trust, issues and healing, but her and my wife and I have the most incredible marriage. We were able to even move into then to doing, of course, because she's West Indian, she's Black, I'm white, and we have this whole multicultural ministry thing that we would try to do. And so God's just been so gracious through the years. And then actually, I guess to bring it to starting to get into Heiser stuff, after I was healed in 2008, it was almost instantaneously, the Lord launched me back into ministry, albeit bivocational. The church that I'd left, there was a new pastor and they needed a youth pastor. So coming back in, there wasn't much money. There's a little bit, but we were doing it mostly because, we feel like the Lord's called us to ministry. We want to serve him. On top of that, now I'm like, God just saved my life. I owe him my life. So I'll serve you in any way I can. And we had this group, again, working class kids, like it's a lower, income neighborhood. And all we had to offer these kids was unconditional love. But we saw God begin to heal young people and grow this youth group. And from there, we went and planted a church in what would be the Northeast Calgary, which is it's a very immigrant heavy part of Calgary, with the intention of a multicultural church. And we're kind of in our second church plant now. We're the second pastors. We took over for some friends of ours. But it was during this time, and I'll let you maybe ask questions, but I'll just end on saying this. When we went and planted that other church, we were there when 2015 rolled around. And that's when I discovered this little book, but there's a whole story around that too. Any thoughts, questions? I don't want to dominate the whole thing.
No. This is what we do on this program, is we allow other people to come and share their stories and thoughts. It's not about mine or Mel's, I mean, we're going to share ours anyway, but those stories are glorious, man. And people need to hear them because they testify about the glory of God and the work that he does. And
Amen.
I mean, we're all for miracles, but the transformation of the human soul is the greatest miracle that I've ever witnessed. It's like the most beautiful piece of art or work that you've ever seen, is a human that is in absolute darkness and brokenness, and for good reason. You know what I mean? To see your mother die when you're 8 years old, and to watch your father have those struggles is incredibly difficult, to do so. But man, is God faithful? Is he not
really
just
is.
So faithful?
Yeah, he is. And the kids, so thankfully, and I thank them the most, they were still very young. They remember nothing of my drinking. And so that's why I was sharing with you before. I'm like, at each stage of their emotional capacity, we shared a bit of the life testimony, so that by 12, 13, they knew my life.
Yeah.
Hey, dad has had his problems too. I can be a real person. Yeah. You don't have to hide. You can bring your things, and we'll do this together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the healing that the kids bring as well to our lives. I have learned more from being my son's father and both of them, and the love that they give to me, and much of it unconditional. You know what I mean? That's just how they are. They love me and adore me, has changed me, but they're not possible without my wife. And I've seen the
That's
pictures
right.
of your wife, and I understand, like, bro, I bet her and my wife are very similar in those ways. She, first of all, seems like a firecracker.
She's
My
an
wife is the
absolute
sweetest
firecracker.
person in the whole world. But I'll tell you what, man, mess with her, she'll punch me. You know what I
Oh,
mean? She'll come at me.
she's
But she
Korean.
is the,
Of
yeah,
course
she
she
is
will.
Korean. Yeah. She's, you know, she has that. I tell people, I was like, yeah, she is the sweetest person, but she is also Korean. So
Mhm.
she's
Yeah, there
got
you
that.
go.
And,
That's
but
right.
those things have absolutely transformed my life. I didn't even know that I needed them as much as I did. I thought that, you know, without those things, I was still church planter, pointed missions, you know, all kinds of things like that. And yet I look back over the last 16 years that I've been married and what God has done, not only it was my wife that got us to Bellingham, truly, her willingness.
Oh yeah.
Cause I was like, hey, we're going to go move to some place. We know no one and we have nothing. And she was like, okay. And 3 weeks later we met Mike, you know, but
Right.
it's their influence. And so we just thank you. God, we are thankful for our wives
Amen.
and what it is you have given us in our children and the help because of the difficulties that we all had growing up. So we just praise you. We thank you, God, for that. All right. So we're in 2015, Jeremy. Tell me what happens.
So 2015 rolls around now every single year. So I'm an ordained reverend with the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, which would be AOG, Assemblies of God down there. And every year for our Alberta district, we have an annual ministers gathering in Banff, Alberta, famous Banff. Beautiful. Just for us, it's a blessing. It's an hour down the road. So, but it's always a highlight. So we go out there, you know, you're with other believers and it's just nice to be in the mountains. And even though I don't look it, I am an outdoor mountain guy. And so
even though I look it, I'm not really.
So we're there, and of course, you know, you got speakers, and it's always, you know, whatever a conference would be for a denomination. And that particular year, I just some connected, and I remember every speaker got up and they were talking about the gospel, but they were all saying something different regarding the gospel. And I can't tell you what they were saying. I don't remember, but I just remember thinking, I'm like, this doesn't seem congruent. You know what I mean? Like I'm just hearing different things. So I began, and I remember thinking, I'm like, you know, according to what I'm hearing, I don't know if I can describe what the gospel truly is. I've grown up in the church, you know what I mean? So I went on a search to discover what the Bible scripture actually says about the gospel. And I mean, there were a number of books that were very helpful. The King Jesus Gospel by Scott McKnight, How God Became King by N.T. Wright. Those were a couple of really big ones. A couple of Orthodox fathers were very helpful as well, some books. And so I began to discover that the gospel is not, because what all we do, and at least for my tribe, as it were, we tend to make the gospel about the cross and you know, the death and resurrection, and that's it. And that's not the gospel. That's the heart of the gospel. The gospel is a much grander story, right? I always, just to paraphrase it, I'm like, it's the story of God from beginning to end, how he is becoming king and turning all things into his, you know, to his desired will. Just as a quick paraphrase, but I began to just, you know, I'm just searching for the gospel. But there was a second question that I was asking that year, and you know, granted, this is 10 years ago now, and it was nothing like now, but I just remember looking around and watching news, and you're like, it is insanity out there. And I just remember thinking, Lord,
and that was just 2015.
Exactly. That was pre-COVID. That was pre all of this stuff.
That was normal life.
Exactly. It was normal. You know, those were the good days, man. And I
never
just
thought I'd say I miss 2015, but you know, here we are. Good old days. My gosh.
Sir. It's funny. Yeah. And I was like, Lord, what's going on? Please help me understand what's going on. Lo and behold, and it's funny, guys, when you begin to ask God to help you understand, it's funny that he actually begins to help you understand.
Amen.
Not more than a few days later, I was just on Facebook, probably doing some church stuff or whatever in one of our groups. And this ad popped up for a book that I'd never heard of from a guy that I had no clue about. But it was the subtitle specifically that really caught me. You know, the unseen realm, recovering, you know, or whatever it is, the supernatural worldview of the Bible by Dr. Michael Heiser. And I get a lot of ads for books and all kinds of stuff, and I ignore most of them, but there is a prompting to grab this thing. So, I mean, especially because I'm like, well, I want to understand this. And you got to understand, I grew up Pentecostal. We're supposed to be like, you know, supernatural, spiritual people. And I'm blown away by how much we how we aren't sometimes. Because I think we get focused on certain things, we miss other things. And so, yeah, it was that supernatural bit that caught me. So I bought it. And so so I got this in just at the end of June. Now, my wife, my kids grew up going to summer camp at this lake north of Calgary called Sylvan Lake. We have a camp there. So they would go to camp. My wife loves to help out. She would go help be the lead counselor. And I'm like, I got 2 full-time jobs. I'm like, I don't want to see a living soul. So I would drop them off and I would take we had this beat out, it literally looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. We had this Beverly Hillbillies looking motorhome. I would drop them off. I would go into the mountains. Okay. It's this area called Nordegg in Alberta. It's way out there. Literally, I would go solo into grizzly country. I'm going to fly fish all day and I'm just going to sit by the fire at night and read. So I go out, I go camping, drop the family off, I go camping, and I start reading this book. And I haven't devoured a book like that. I think I read it almost 3 times that week. But as I started reading, guys, I was weeping. I was weeping and I was in mourning. Like I felt like I was like, how come nobody has told me this before? Right. And it was almost like I had to mourn an entire lifetime of not understanding what scripture was actually saying. And I was beaten. I was angry and sad at the same time. And I feel like I've been lied to, because all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, of course, this makes sense. For the first time, the things that the stories that I came from a missionary family. My grandfather and my dad, they planted churches all up through the windward side of the West Indian Island, of Caribbean. So Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Antigua, like there's lots of supernatural things that happen in the Caribbean. And of course, my wife is Haitian. She comes from, she was born in Montreal. Her parents had just immigrated, but her parents grew up facing the full brunt, you know what I mean, of voodoo. Even when they came to Montreal, there's a lot of voodoo that goes on because there's so many Haitian immigrants. So there's this whole supernatural thing. You're seeing stuff in the world. How come people are rising up against God so much and all this kind of stuff? And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, it was here the whole time. There's actual gods of the world that are opposing Yahweh. And in our minds, we know this, but here's the reality. Because listen, I read this thing over and over again and I started preaching it immediately, the material. And it was like, boom, my church was like, now they're used to me. I can say very difficult things. I'm not a flowery preacher. I'm definitely not a seeker-sensitive preacher. I work my way through books of the Bible. I'm going to tell you the hard things. I'm going to tell you the good things. So I bring this in and everyone's like kind of blown away at the beginning, but they're like, okay, this makes sense. And we start preaching the material and I'm like, guys, here's what's going on, and just allowing people to even begin to grasp the truth of scripture and not what we've changed or made it to be. Because so often I run into, there's gods of the world, but they're not real gods.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember, they're mute idols. You don't understand. They never thought those were the actual gods. They built them so that they could attract the spirits to inhabit them. And I still run into this. No. You shouldn't be talking about this. That's Bible studies time. You shouldn't be talking about this on a Sunday morning. Like, you can't concentrate on the darkness and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm not concentrating on the darkness. I'm just trying to open up people's minds to see what scripture says and their hearts and their spirit. And so it just sent me on a new trajectory. Naked Bible. I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Where was this podcast my whole life? You know what I mean? And I'm a nerd. I love that stuff.
I think to your point, I think you make a really important point here that a lot of people, what you're doing is that you're drawing the attention to what Ephesians 6 is talking about, in the fact that I think too often we are very, very earthly centered, because I mean, and it's understandable. Our experience is kind of only here. We only see this. We're kind of reliant upon our four senses, five senses.
Yeah.
But it kind of, what you're doing is you're kind of saying, hey, your battle is not against flesh and blood.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, and if you can do that on a weekly basis on Sunday morning, it kind of reminds you, hey, your battle is not against your brother and sister in Christ over here, or even this other person that maybe they're an imager, but they're not a believer yet. It's like your battle is not against them. There's a divine narrative that's going beyond the curtain of reality that we can understand and see. That's infecting and influencing these things. And I think that's what you're trying to expose and teach and bring people to understand on a weekly basis. I think that's huge. I think it's really important.
And then not only that, so now, it's funny that we're doing this now, because this is completely like unintentional. About 2 or 3 months ago, I was just kind of praying, going through scripture, because I like I said, I like to work my way through books of the Bible, forces you. And without even meaning to, it's the old, I've never preached through Peter in my whole life. Never preached through. I'm like, it's time to do a series through Peter. We know Mike's, of course, famous story. I often wonder, does that poor pastor, did he ever read this book? Like, I wonder if that guy knows that he has been called out on that. You know what I mean? And so there's so much in, because I want my people to understand, hey, there's going to be suffering in this world, and we're called to endure it. But it also allows me opportunity to dig into these things, and Jesus preached. And so actually this upcoming Sunday, I actually get to Jesus speaking to the spirits in prison. Now, a lot of my people have heard this, so it's nothing new, but we've been getting a lot of visitors. We're slowly starting to see growth. And I'm like, okay, every time someone new comes in, I'm like, boop, we got to go again. Like, we got to keep this thing rolling. But now the idea for me is, I'm like, how do I now shift this? Because I really want to equip people to be able to go out. Because at the same time in 2015, and again, it's interesting how the Lord puts things together. He knows the timing. The timing is perfect with God. Because I had felt the Lord say, hey, I'm going to start bringing people that are possessed, struggling with demonic, either oppression or possession. He's like, I'm going to start bringing them your way. And I was like, okay. Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell the first one. It's not like I have people flocking every day. It's just now and then. But right around this time, and that's why this was right before Unseen Realm, actually the few months before. So after reading Unseen Realm, I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting it a little bit more. But the Lord had brought, I actually got a call from one of my former youth who was going to a different church at this time. And he called me on a Sunday night. Now I'm bivocational, so I work a full-time job. I pastor, it's might as well be full-time. Like, I'm back by Sunday evening, I'm completely spent. So I get this call on a Sunday evening, and he says, hey, listen, he started going to this other church because, he liked a girl there. That's how churches grow sometimes. And so he's over there, and he says, listen, my girlfriend's friend is like freaking out. And she's really manifesting, but he's like, I don't really know what to do about this. And I just was like, dude, I'm too tired. I don't want to go. I'm exhausted. And the Holy Spirit prompted me. He said, no, you need to go. And I said, okay, if this is what you're going to do, I need to go. So groggily, like, I drive down, I'm bagged, and I meet them outside. This was downtown Calgary. And she had like a high paying insurance job. So she lived kind of in like a penthouse, apartment in a condo. So they come out and meet me, and they're like, hey, here's what's going on. I said, okay, let's pray. Let's take a few minutes. We prayed. We go up there, and not all of them are like this. This was a very unique one, but it was a war zone. Like, it was like a movie, like, really. And so we go in, and she's just writhing, like, just brutal. And I'm like, all right. So I could tell right away. I'm like, this is going to be a lot, because the two of them had no idea what to do. And so I just said, listen, I need you guys to stay here and pray. I grew up hearing the stories and I've dealt with a little bit here and there, but this was my first full on one. What was really interesting is that this girl had grown up kind of in the church, and insert your joke, I guess, about Hillsong here, but she had a big Hillsong video she was watching, and I'm like, that all that stuff means nothing. You know what I mean? Like, she was doing everything she can to like try to like, but nothing was helping. So I start praying, and I'm doing all the tropes, all the things that I've heard. You're throwing out the name of Jesus. And what was interesting is that she would come in and out of,
lucidity.
Lucidity. And I would be able to talk to her a few minutes, and then a different one would come in, like the multiple voices, little girls, growling men. And the thing about, and here's what I always tell people, because people say, oh, again, you're concentrating on this stuff. I'm like, it has nothing to do with like, this is cool, or, let's go be demon slayers or whatever. It's Jesus wants to set people free.
And sometimes you run into this.
And sometimes you run into it. Like the human body does not bend the way I saw that poor girl bend.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to hurt her, and so I'm trying all of these things and nothing's working. You know what I mean? They're just having a good old time, and, Jesus and this and that. What was really interesting, and I wasn't like screaming, I was trying to be very calm, was trying to allow the Holy Spirit to do his thing. And after 2 hours, it was, I knew we were getting nowhere. So I was like, okay, we're going to shut her down. We'll come back. I got to, go talk to my wife and my sister and her brother. They were missionaries as well. They were our assistant pastors. I'm like, we got to go get together and we got to figure this out. But what was really interesting, just as an aside of this, is that at one point they started yelling. They're like, we're going to drag you to hell with us. And, and I said, I'm not going to hell. I said, my name's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Because of course, that's what I'm trying to take the truth of scripture. And that's what I'm trying to apply to everything. I said, my name's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And what was interesting is that got them more than the name of Jesus or anything. The instant I said, my name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, they were like, I hate that book. Stop talking about that book. It was wild. And my guess is, I'm like, the truth that they have no ability to overtake those who belong to Christ just threw them over the edge, I guess. So anyways, it really was wild, man. But I knew we were getting nowhere. So we go home, we kind of regroup, we're praying. And what was funny is that I took a call with her and with my wife. I need to get my wife in this because I'm not dealing with her alone, obviously. And so we're talking to her, and she was actually a New Zealander. So she had this New Zealand accent, and, my wife's like, oh, you're so sweet. And then all of a sudden this demonic voice will just be like, I'm going to murder you. Like, we're getting texts. It's so weird texting with a demon. Like, hey, can we come visit? I'm going to murder your whole family. And you're just like, this is insane. So anyways, we go back, we take the four of us, my brother and my sister, her husband, and then Matilda. And we go visit with her, and like, now we're going to do some real work, because it's not about like holding crucifixes. We're going to get to the root of some of the things that have happened to her. So we prayed our way through. Then when we went to meet with her again, hey, what's happened in your childhood? We began to walk her through things. So it turns out her father had made her watch porn with him when she was like 8 and 9. He would invite women over and make her watch, He bought Ouija boards for her, his daughter and their friends. And she's just naming one thing after another that happened to her. And it just became, they had access one after another. And so, we began to walk her through those things. Okay. Was this something that happened to you? Let's try to forgive them. Let's try to give this to the Lord. Something you did, let's ask forgiveness for it before Christ. And every time we walked through a different thing, she would actually vomit it out. You didn't see anything leave, but she's vomiting and she's getting free. And so, it's not that I'm going to cast these demons out. We want to see this poor girl that was abused set free.
Reconcile.
Exactly.
She needs reconciliation.
Yep. Yep. And the unfortunate part, we've seen a lot of people get free. The unfortunate part on this one is that we just told her, because she loved her wine. And we said, "Guy, you're gonna have to stop drinking because it's not great for you."
Not
And
gonna
she
help you.
could, and she's like, "No, I won't stop my wine." And we said, there's nothing more we can do for you. And last we heard, actually, the last thing we talked with her is, I got a text one day, and we knew that she got free of a lot of demonic spirits, but we know she still had some, because I got this text and she's like, "Hey, can you come help me move my bed?" "No, I'm not coming to help you move your bed. We're done here now." Like, that's it. And the last I heard is that she had got fired from her job and ended up in a psych ward, because she got free from so many things, but she couldn't let that last thing go. And the state that she was in before, remember what Jesus said?
Was worse.
It's going to end
Worse
up
off.
worse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever really been ministering until a woman growls at you in the darkest, gnarliest voice? I remember the first time that happened to me on the streets of Berkeley. I said, "Whoa," and just walked away, because I was like, I have no idea.
Yep.
It's like, I ain't never heard anyone growl at me like that.
But this is cool.
All right,
like,
so you also
this is a cool story to hear about, like, because you're not like, you didn't and this is for the benefit of the audience. It's like, you didn't go to school for this. You know, you didn't, like, you weren't formally trained in this. This is just like something that God brought you through a bunch of circumstances in your life, you know, gave you, you know, he didn't necessarily give you, he allowed you to go through struggles. He allowed you to go through your own things, to come out of it, develop your own character, develop, you know, kind of get tested and kind of find out who you are and who he is. And then he's just like, "Okay, now we're going to do this. This is the game plan, you know, and here we go."
Yeah.
And that's really cool, because I think sometimes people think you just have to go through some kind of like formal training to do it. And it's just kind of about doing exactly what you did, to step out in faith and, you know what, I'm just going to show up, and God's going to, like, I may not do it perfectly this time, but it's not all on me. Exactly. You know, this is God's working through me. You know, he's going to use me as a vessel. Like, it's not about me. It's about him. I just have to be willing to go there and do this thing. Exactly. So I think I really appreciate that story. That's
and
really
you can
awesome.
Hear, now that you've listened to, you know, Fern and Audrey, you can hear some of the similarities between the way that they do it by focusing on the imager and the person and their trauma instead of all of those other things, and they have found that to work. So you guys are also the directors at the Dream Center, the Calgary Dream Center. Tell me a bit about that, because first I want to start now. Now, is in Calgary, are many drugs legal right now? Do you know what I'm asking there?
Yeah, well, sure do. Okay, so we work for the Calgary Dream Center. I'm the director of properties and fleet. So since I have a background in construction, I kind of oversee. We have 47 transitional homes. So we have an old hotel that was a seedy hotel.
Wow.
Had a strip club in the basement. The church that we kind of were umbrellaed under when we planted our churches is called First Assembly. They bought this building like 25 years ago and turned it into a treatment center for men.
I guess this is like a manifestation of like reclaiming the cosmic geography.
It absolutely is 100%. And there was a strip club that was in the basement that's now a church. That all the men, they don't have to, because not all of them are coming to faith, but it's a place for them to go. Many of them do come to faith in Christ. Do you know what I mean? And so we have a 6-story tower that men in addiction or homelessness are able to come in. They go through a program. Everyone knows we're faith-based. Like, obviously we are not beating people over the head. But you wouldn't get any government funding then. but we make it very clear. We're not shy. Like, we follow the way of Jesus here. You know what I mean? So they go through program, and then once they can stay in the tower for a while. And then we have 47 homes in the community that we've bought that are transitional homes. We have a 16 apartment women's a home for women coming out of either addiction or abuse or whatever. And we're in the process of buying just on the outskirts of downtown, because we're close to downtown Calgary. There's an old school that's no longer being used. So we're buying that. We're going to knock that down and put up a 5-story tower that's now devoted for women and children that are in addiction. And so it's a big, and it is it's cosmic, it's reclaiming that cosmic geography. Absolutely. And so I'm the director of properties. I oversee, because a lot of the places we buy, they're in rough shape, or just through the years, maybe they didn't have someone who really knew what they're doing. So some of our places have been allowed to kind of degrade or whatever, fall apart a little bit. And I am a big believer, like one of the missions in my life, and again, Dr. Heiser, I thank him for it, is helping me understand that our task is to bring order from chaos. Like, look, God, Eden was just a plot of land. The rest of the world, he allowed to be wild. It was our task to go there and make it like Eden. And I take that to heart. And I come here and I'm like, we're going to make this place like Eden to the best that we can. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the Ritz-Carlton, but we're going to be able to provide. I always found like it should just be a nice, safe place.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I was just having this conversation with my daughter like 2 nights ago. We're talking about something. We're talking about the Edenic mission. And I said, a lot of people think it's about the physical structure. Like they think, oh, we have to go out and till the land and just pluck all the weeds. And I said, no, it is more about like Eden was a place of safety and security and utter love and kindness. And all of the negative aspects of humanity did not exist there. Yeah. And I was like, it is more about love and kindness and of the atmosphere than it is the physical, wares of what we're on. So like, I think what you're doing is, it's much bigger than just the house. I think that physical safety and security that's a big deal. Just the peace and security that these women and children are getting is wonderful.
Yep. 100%. And even for men, because they can be neglected sometimes.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? And so my wife's the HR manager. She came over here we're friends with the CEO and his wife. They pastor the church. There's a great leadership team. So they kind of, got us over here to help out and feel like the Lord has us where he wants us to be. But you're back to your original question of, is there a lot of, I like how you said that, trying not to be so rude. Is there a lot of drugs that are legal? Yes. We have had, I try not to get too right or left on things. We have had the worst leader in the world for the last 10 years. And even in his last few,
Joe Biden was like, hold my beer, but still didn't beat Trudeau, man.
He's like, watch this. As he like points his finger at everyone, but pictures of him in blackface and like wearing Indian garb come up all over the place. Even on his way out, like he's doing as much damage as he can. But his whole thing is we're for free drugs for everyone. And so here it's failed. And you look at Vancouver, even the NDP there who are in power, which would be a left-leaning party, even they're admitting, they're like, this hasn't worked. Safe drugs is nonsense. And I tell this to people all the time. I'm like, Paul talked obviously about doctrines of demons that are going to be there in the last days. An absolute doctrine of demons is let's just give them clean drugs. Because you guys know as well as I do that the Greek word for witchcraft is pharmakia. Yeah. Drugs were always used to enter the occult, to enter, the spiritual realm. So in other words, all the demonic realm wants to do is give them drugs. We don't care if it's
keep them enslaved. They want to kill them. They want to kill them.
And so like we have a government that literally was like, we're going to give you drugs.
Well, let me go ahead and compare, because I'm also from Northern California where we had Gavin Newsom. So I don't know. Even he'd be like, well, you guys got some terrible stuff, but watch me burn down. No, I'm just kidding. But, in there, I mean, they spent like 36. So I used to work with the homeless and stuff on the streets of Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco, in that area. And so you'd go out and you're dealing with a lot of drugs and a lot of things like that. But what they've done is instead in the past 20 years of claiming to help them, they just give them the needles, give them the drugs, give them whatever they need.
Yeah.
And they die out there. And now that fentanyl, I only learned about fentanyl 3 years ago when I started working with some kids who had some family that died from it.
Yeah.
Like you think about, and you've seen those videos where people are doubled over, but standing, and totally unnatural. And they want to do this because it keeps these people down, these people that God loves, people that are made in the image of God. And there's going to be a lot of those people that if they actually got over that would do so much damage to the kingdom of darkness because of, of what God has truly done for them and who they are. They just can't get out of that. So keep them with these, clean drugs. I'm sure they're not free, but close enough for most people. And it just keeps them in this bondage.
It is in bondage. And you see it, like you'll see people just frozen. You're driving down the road, they're just frozen, and
what is it? What is like the homeless or poor population of Calgary? It's like, seems weird to ask when it's going to be so cold. So maybe
it is weird. And it's really unfortunate because there's a lot of drop-in centers and stuff, places for people to go, but they don't necessarily do treatment. You know what I mean? It's just a place. Yeah. There has to be. You'll see guys that are homeless that will try to brave winter. Now, I never get. It's funny because Canada, we're a hybrid between Britain and the States. So we use metric for distance. But we use like imperial for like measuring. I only do inches. Don't get me on centimeters and stuff. So, but when you come to like temperatures, I can never get the thing straight. So, when it gets to minus 30 here, when it can get to minus 30 Celsius, which I think would be about minus 15 Fahrenheit, something like that, minus 10, whatever it is.
Still cold.
Yeah, it's really cold.
It's fucking cold. And you'll see guys trying to sleep through it in a sleeping bag, and so people freeze to death. But we have, the police have action teams that will go take people. We don't want you, you know what I mean? We're going to bring you to a place. Yeah. The nice thing about Alberta, guys, is that we are the conservative capital of Canada. We get a lot of fingers pointed at us. If you want to imagine, we're basically, if you think Calgary, think a mix between Denver and Texas. Because we're right on the mountains, we're oil and gas. This is ranch land. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's beach. So that's kind of what and we have because of the oil and gas, we actually have the largest expat American population in Canada. A lot of them, expats are here.
Probably a lot of Texans too.
Yeah, a ton, 100%. And so, we're conservative leaning. And as we have, we went one 4-year term, electing a left-wing party a few years ago. It didn't go well. So, because your cities, the urban centers naturally kind of lean towards that. With such a large rural. Anyways, we have a leader. You might have heard her because she's been talking a lot with Donald Trump, trying to get him to not tariff oil and gas. Her name's Danielle Smith. And she's changed. She's like, we're not doing the drug stuff like the rest of the country is. It doesn't work. I'm not sure. I've heard stories. Maybe she had a family member that, really was affected by it. But basically she's like, no, we're getting them into treatment. And in fact, we're working to be like, we're not just going to give you free drugs. We're going to get you in a treatment center where you want to be there or not, because that's what
you need to be. Exactly. Maybe you don't know what's best for yourself.
And so, it's been positive that way, but yes, we're working with these guys, and here's what's interesting. You talk to any of them, especially when it comes to drug addiction. If you ask any guy who's been addicted to drugs, especially as he get harder drugs, every one of them have had an experience with the demonic, with aliens. They've been abducted. They've had all this stuff. My best man, that was part of my wedding, we lost touch after we got married. I had to leave that life behind in order to get, to move on. But I wasn't trying to reject it. I'm just, how it is. You have friends, life moves on, talk. I saw him, I hadn't seen him in 15 years maybe. And I ran into him maybe 2017 and at a thrift store. And he runs out, he's agitated, tells me this story. The last time I had heard, he was a prison guard. Then he busted up his knee and they gave him OxyContin and he got hooked on Oxy and he robbed a pharmacy and ended up in the prison that he was a prison guard in.
Oh,
So
no.
now he was dealing with extreme trauma. He's all this stuff. He said, I said, Mike, come on. I brought him into the car and he's like, Jerry, I got to show you these pictures. He's like, look, these are aliens. And he's showing me pictures of orbs and all this stuff. He's like, everyone thinks I'm crazy. I said, Mike, you're not crazy. I know what you deal with. It's okay. And I began talking to him again and trying to explain. And that was last. And then I ran into him a year and a half later. And he tells me this story. He's like, he goes, and I'm asking him how it's going. Hey, Mike, you seeing things? He's like, yeah. He goes, there's these dark figures. They're always behind me. No matter where I go, they're following me. And he said, one guy in particular, he said, there's a guy by the name, I call him the man in the black hat. And he's like, his exact words is, he said, he's relentless. All he does is insult me. Everything I do, he tells me I'm the worst, like it's constant. And so he's really in a bad place and he had nowhere to go for a few days. So I said, Mike, come stay with us. Now, I have to preface the story. This is a 2-part story. So my wife, listen, Black people just in general, First Nation, we call, Aboriginal people here, we say First Nations people, Indigenous people, West Indian people, African people, people that are not white, typically speaking, have understanding of the spiritual realm a little more because they've grown up in an atmosphere where there's other gods. So my wife definitely has that ability to see into the spirit a little bit. And when we moved into our house in 2008, we're sleeping one night, we're in our room, and she gets up to go to the bathroom, and she immediately notices that there's a man standing in the window. Okay, but she knew instinctively it was an angelic being. Okay. Because she's seen them, she'll tell me, oh, if the Lord's really moving in a service, she'll be like, oh, there's an angel that's over there. This will be happening. And it's not all the time, but just at certain times. So this guy's standing, there's a curtain between him and the window. He's not behind the curtain. He's just looking through the curtain out the window. So she's groggy. She goes to the bathroom. She's telling me this. I sleep through it. I see nothing. She tells me this the next day. She goes to the bathroom. She comes back and she's about to get back into bed and she looks and she's just kind of staring at him. The guy doesn't turn around and he says, do you see me? And she says, yeah. She's like, what are you doing? And he said, the Lord has placed one of us at every door and window in your home. Because we're here to bring protection. And she's like, okay. And just went back to bed. And so she tells me the story the next day. So fast forward back, fast forward like 10 years or whatever to my friend Mike. He's got nowhere to go. He has a place that he's going to be able to go to in a few days, but in the meantime, I don't want him on the street. Called Matilda, hey, and he's on Oxy, like he's not in good shape. I said, I'm going to bring Mike over. We'll put him on the pull-out couch in our living room. You know what I mean? The kids are good. They're upstairs with us. So Mike comes in. We're talking for hours, just sharing the gospel. Hey, Mike, these are demonic beings. Here's how you can be free from this, But before we got there, he said, listen, Jared, I don't want to go to your place. He's like, these guys follow me and I don't want to bring them to your house. And I said, Mike, you don't need to worry. I said, they're not even allowed to come on our sidewalk. They're not allowed to cross over onto our property at all. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. So we come in, we're talking, it's maybe 11. And I'm like, hey, Mike, you need to go to bed. So I go to turn the light off and he's like, leave him on. No, don't turn the light off. And I said, what do you mean? You sleep with the lights on? He said, yeah, it's the only way I can keep them at bay. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm not going to, whatever you need to do, buddy. So we leave it on. We go to bed. I wake up. He's still sleeping. It's by 8, 9, because it was on a weekend. It was on a Friday to a Saturday. So he's still sleeping. We're being real quiet. We go down the basement. We're other places. He didn't wake up till noon. And he said that I haven't had a sleep like that in 20 years or whatever. And I said, because he never slept, he just didn't. And I said, where were the beings? He's like, I don't know. He's like, they weren't here. And I said, see, Mike, I'm like the God I serve. They have no authority to come in. This is what happens when you surrender your life to Jesus. And it took a few more. He didn't give his life then, but you know what? He ended up giving his heart to Jesus. He moved out to Vancouver Island. He ended up in a treatment center out there, and you know, he's doing well. And so one of the things that Mike said that absolutely resonates, because this is what I tell people all the time, is he said, guys, we got to have better answers for people. It's a lot of bad answers. But what I mean by that is I run into people all the time because, guys, people are seeing aliens. They're having experiences. There's all kinds of weird stuff. And I'll hear from Christians, there's no such thing as aliens. You couldn't even be talking. And I'm like, people are having these experiences? Whether they're actual beings from another planet, okay, I can have that. But there's something going on. And you know what? It's not a good enough answer, because I've heard someone say this. Well, you know, Christianity, my religion says that there's no aliens. First of all, I'm like, you show me where in scripture it says that. Secondly, this is not we got to stop living in this religious.
Well, first of all, God himself is alien to our terrestrial realm. When you say extraterrestrial, you're talking about every being in that other realm. I don't believe in intergalactic, but I believe in interdimensional 1000%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, those are all alien beings in that realm, because if they come and stood before us, whatever they look like, we'd be like, what?
Yep.
Except for Jesus, who looks like man. The rest of them, man, give me that 1,000 eyeball angel, and I'm freaking out.
100%. You know, and so now my goal, and I'm working into this actually in this series. So I didn't have time to do it this Sunday. So we go to a ministers gathering next week. I won't be there. But for the following Sunday after that, as I work my way again into the idea of, you know, the spirits and the supernatural, we're going to anoint with oil, and just once and for all, I'm like, guys, you guys are released to go and to be able to see people set free, because every one of you, Canada is like, we were in Savannah, Georgia last year. So our general conference was in Niagara Falls. So the church flew us there, and I'd always wanted to go to Savannah. And so Matilda and I went a week early. We flew down there. I preached at her cousin's church in a little place called Dublin, Georgia, between Savannah and Atlanta. I was getting to preach in a full black church. I'm a high energy guy, so I'm like, it was good for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was fun. But you know, we went down there, and I was blown away. Even though this is this place that's really a tragic city because of its past, but it's so beautiful and amazing at the same time.
It's really beautiful.
And the people were so friendly, and it still felt godly. I live in a country that has rejected God. And we did it under the guise. And again, I have a multicultural marriage. Like, I have an interracial marriage. We are the most heavily like multicultural nation on earth, which is great. I love different nations. I love different people groups, but much of it was done with the intent of, hey, like, religions, just gods are allowed to go crazy. You know what I mean?
That's right. No assimilation, no recognition, just allowing them to do what it is that they would normally do. And that's just not how it works.
And you have to acknowledge, like, you know, you have to acknowledge that so we're in this I live in this crazy country where we're a blessing. Like, God has blessed Canada, but guess what? The more we allow the gods of the world, you know, to have free reign, the more people are going to be oppressed, the more they're going to be maybe possessed, the more that it's just going to go to hell. And I'm like, we got to have good answers for people and be able to set them free. So I'm working through how, like you said earlier, Mel, you're like, I went to Bible school. We got maybe a couple of classes in a course on this type of stuff, and not how to do it, just talk about it. Like, there's no manual.
No, there isn't.
So I'm like, okay, I'm just working through it, guys. We're going to anoint with oil, and we're going to release. Now.
Yeah. Well, just do like Jesus did with the 70, you know, when he sent them out and they came back saying, hey, even the demons, it was just crazy for them. Even the demons are subject to us in your name. That was just like, what?
Yeah.
I wish that right there could be like a little mini series. You know, I wish someone would like do a mini series and just kind of expound on that, that little story, that little snippet of like what happened. Because I can imagine Can you imagine all 70 of those people coming back and being like, dude, you will not
Like,
believe what happened.
Totally.
Like the story's just got to be off the chain, you know?
No kidding.
I wish I could hear those.
Yeah, that would be.
That's a great point. I never thought of that.
And so let me ask you, like, how did your wife react or respond to Mike's work? Because you found it first, right?
Yep. So Matilda is, I love her, and she's so supportive, and she typically believes that if the Lord's speaking to me, she's speaking to both of us. Likewise, he'll speak to her, and he speaks to me. We joke around because although she'll say it herself, she's very aware of the gods of the world because of her Haitian background. She's like, none of this is surprising. But when you get into some of the challenging biblical passages and doctrines, that's where I can always tell when I challenge her on something, when I'm learning something, because she'll do this thing with her eyes. She'll kind of look away for a minute because it's so jarring when we get our worldview
shaken.
Yeah. And so it takes her some time to process it. But all in all, like, she's been on board 100%, right from the get-go. And we've been doing it together, and we are partners for sure. Like, she is such a big part of everything. I won't minister very rarely unless it's organic and it comes upon, and I just come upon something. If we're ever doing anything where there's deliverance needed, I do it with her always, because God's gifted her with incredible wisdom. She has ability to see things that I don't see. You know what I mean? And so she's been a tremendous blessing. And
have you?
Go ahead.
I was like, have you? Now, how about other people? Have you met other people in your area who know Mike's work?
A few. That's what's. I mean, it's becoming more and more, like, because other guys are picking up the mantle now. Joel Muddamali, I know, studied under Dr. Heiser. Like, there's other people doing this, and so I am starting to hear it more and more and more. Actually, you know what's really interesting? I was just shown that I had no clue, and it just, a light turned on. This was last night. I was sending another podcast that I've been listening to somebody, because I've gotten a lot of people on this train up here. I do want to find out if there's more. I've been meaning to take your advice there, Rich, and put my name in the group on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
To see if there's anyone in Calgary. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it because I want to know who else is doing it.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to another podcast called the Biblical Reenchantment Podcast with Anthony Delgado.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, they interviewed this guy. I didn't realize you guys had interviewed him last year.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even put two and two together. So I'm listening to stuff. Now I'm beginning to see like how much it's growing and it's getting out there. Okay.
That's right.
I don't know too many people that are doing per se what I've heard other pastors do a message or two. But I don't know if they've incorporated it. What's really funny is that I go out to my ministers gathering because when hot tub time is in, that's when you're talking to dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Service is over. We're going to hit the hot tub. But I look like I'm speaking gibberish to people sometimes. Because I'll be talking, hey, and they're just like, what are you talking about? And it's still, so there's still a lot of people that are, haven't heard this. And I'm working hard to make that an unreality. There was even a time where I had some of our kind of people in district who are like, I think I said this before, you shouldn't be preaching that on a Sunday morning. That's not Sunday morning stuff. I'm like, that's Bible study stuff. But you know what I realized? Visitors coming in have an understanding that something's going on out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you start answering some of those things, or at least getting them interested, then they will come. Let me, definitely, first of all, how can someone get a hold of you if they're in Canada or in this area?
Yep. So I am on Facebook. It's just Jeremy Keys. You could look up Advanced Church. I think it's actually Advanced Church YYC. That's our airport code. I'm also on Instagram. The handle there is Fisherman Keys. I'm a huge fly fisherman. So
you're gonna have to teach me, man. That's something I've been wanting
Anytime,
to do.
Dude. I'll come down.
When you say you go out to your camp in the backwoods and just fly fish and sit by a campfire and read, that's like That's like dream retirement for me.
Oh, tell
I
me
mean,
about
not
it.
like every day, but like to get away
Oh,
and
many-
just
most
recharge.
days.
Like that's,
Just once a week.
dude, that's
Or
what
once
I
a,
want.
I mean, once a
That's
year
like-
amazing.
for a week.
I'm very,
Mm.
very blessed to live where I do.
yeah, totally,
I'm
man.
grateful
That's
for it.
awesome.
So-
Good
Yeah,
for you.
well, if Canada becomes the 51st state, then
Which
we'll
we're
just
all about.
immigrate
It's cool.
up there
Everyone
and
thinks
hang out with
Canadians
you.
are friendly.
You know?
So
Yeah.
here's what's it. I thought we might get into that. Here's what's interesting about this.
I couldn't
Because
help
if it
myself.
happens, plus just this plenty, especially Albertans, we're like, yeah, maybe it's not a bad idea. Canada is such a diverse country regionally. Most of us would not want to join with other provinces.
Oh,
So if we
100%.
were to become American, we're like, we still need to be our own state. So you're probably
52nd state.
now 62
Oh, yeah, probably.
states.
There
you know
you
what I
go.
mean?
Sure.
But
Plus,
yeah,
yeah,
plus,
who knows what's
plus
gonna happen
Greenland.
there?
Plus Greenland. Don't forget
Plus
Greenland.
Greenland.
When I
Dude,
moved to
it's-
Bellingham, I knew nothing about it, right? Like only just understood that it was 30 minutes from the border of
Yeah,
Canada, you know, and an hour from BC or Vancouver. We go to the Costco for the first time, and the whole parking lot is littered with Canadian license plate. Never seen anything like it. It was like a shock. I was like, so I go inside, and you know what I'm expecting to see? White Mounties,
Right.
you know, not Chinese,
Yeah.
Indian, you know what I mean, or all of that. But that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
it was. And that
Oh.
was my first, like, I never thought that Canada was as diverse, or at least, as diverse as Vancouver was, at all. That's not what I've been led to believe by my television and
That's
my
right.
movies and stuff. I expected the A, which love it, but I had like my neighbors in Bellingham. We lived on a lake, and the lake was basically like second home for Canadians during the summer. Like 80% of the homes were owned by us. We were there all the time.
Yeah, my
But I had
grandparents
those-
had a cabin down there.
Yeah, I had these my neighbors, they were white Canadians, and they were exceptional family people. They would go and sit with their whole family around the fire, and they would sing songs, like Neil Diamond and stuff like
Right.
that. And they would just sing all the time. They would just drink Coors until the cows came home. They would just drink all the time. What was amazing though is they'd invite me down. Like they'd always invite me down, but the kids, when they were there, their 20-year-old kids, they would want to have me down. And what they want to talk about? Aliens.
Yeah,
Like that's
man.
what they wanted to talk about around the fire, which I found, completely bizarre. But let me also, I don't know if have you ever heard of a church called Center Street Church, 3900 2nd Street Northeast in Calgary?
I know Center Street. Absolutely. Yeah, it's the biggest church in Canada, actually.
So that congregation is listed on Mike's church directory on his website
Oh, is
as
that
someone.
right?
Yeah. So I don't, you
Are
may
we
be
on
able
there?
to.
Is there maybe my old church, City Mosaic? Do you see a City Mosaic? I thought I
No.
registered at our last one. I should put it on there.
Yeah. I
Maybe I
think
didn't.
it's going to have to be redone.
Oh, okay.
Because this one is at least a few years old, or maybe added to, or
Gotcha.
whatnot. But I know that I find a lot of things on here. Like for when we're going to go to Indiana, I found every congregation within 2 hours that are listed, and we'll send them an email.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, on this list is that church is listed there, so you never know. You might be
It's
able
a
to.
very,
find
very
some.
big church. My assumption would be that probably one of the associate
mine.
pastors somewhere, you know what I mean, down the line.
Yeah, that'd be my assumption too. Someone in the audience was like, "No, we'll just put this there just
exactly.
in case."
Exactly.
Well, what else we got, guys? Anything else to say, Jeremy? Do you want to share anything else?
No, you know what? Actually, I maybe I will just end by kind of saying this. One of the things that blew me away is there. Okay, so there was a period actually after this time. So this was after learning about Heiser's work, and I'm reading and I'm growing and all this kind of and all this stuff. And then I kind of went through that time where I was told, hey, you shouldn't be preaching this stuff. This should be Bible study only. And you can't even get people to go to a Bible study half the time. I'm like, so it's got to be here. But I went through a period of very heavy cynicism on what I see in the church in general. And the Lord really had to correct me on it, because cynicism is not healthy. You know what I mean? But everything was, oh, come on, what are we doing here? And I went through this deep period of cynicism to the point where I began to actually, kind of read things that, I was always told you're not supposed to read things like, started reading a lot of Orthodox books, like Eastern Orthodox theology.
Yeah.
by this time, I was told in Bible college never to read the Apocrypha of all things, apocryphal writings. So Mike really helped me there, because I'm like, I just can't believe how misguided that is now. But so what blew me, and I say all that to say this, what blew my mind was that, and so I would read, there's a couple books in particular, Father Stephen DeYoung, or Damick, Andrew Stephen Damick, he's in New Orleans. Then Father Stephen DeYoung, I think he's in Indiana. They run a podcast called The Lord of Spirits, which is actually the Messiah's title in the book of Enoch. Okay. And they're doing the exact same thing Heiser was doing. It blew my mind. The Orthodox Church never lost this stuff.
Yeah.
So for the rest of us, we were Augustine told us something, and then everyone's dropping it.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Coptic Church in Ethiopia has Enoch in their Bible, you know, so I was just blown away. Like, I was reading through some of the old books. There's one called Arise, O God, which of course is Psalm 82:8. And you know, divine counsel. What was the purpose of the gospel? The purpose of the gospel wasn't how can God bless me or how can I be saved. It was an attack on the forces of darkness. The good news is here that Jesus is becoming king. And one of the things I learned in there, and this I think this helped me. We talked about unseen realm, but about the gospel specifically. And the gospel is a good way to end this, I think. The gospel really is an annunciation to the world and to the powers of darkness that there is a new king. So in about 10 BC, I guess about 100 years ago, it's dated to 10 BC, they found like an obelisk, like a pillar in a city called Priene, the ancient Priene in Turkey. And on this pillar was inscribed, the gospel of Caesar Augustus. And so what the gospel of Caesar Augustus was is that when Rome would go in and take over a new region, they would have a herald go ahead. Okay.
That's
and
right.
They would inscribe the fact that there's a new king. And here's how this new king is better than your old king. Here's what this new king is going to do for you. He's great, but you have to obey him. If you just obey this king, things are going to go well for you. So in other words, a lot of people think, well, the gospel is a biblical term. No, it's a polemic, like Mike would always talk about. They took this term and the New Testament writers repurposed it. This is the gospel. The gospel is, guess what? This king that used to be over your land, whichever God it is, he's no longer the king. There's a new king. And he's here to overtake. And you, listen, obey him. It's going to go well for you. Mm-hmm. But you got to get rid of this king. And so that, with the stuff that Heiser helped, and it's all divine worldview, or, divine counsel worldview. It's all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it just completely changed the trajectory of both the life of me as a pastor, but also of my family. Like, my son loves it. He's all over it. He's learning. Him and his friends are going to Japan next year.
Yes.
Awesome.
One of the most.
I want to go.
I'm so I got such a big heart for Japan.
All of us want to go.
Yeah, I really do.
We all want to go to Japan.
And so, let's go and let's go see what Jesus wants to do. I'm pumped. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, we are, we are ambassadors of Christ. You know what I mean? We are a part of a new kingdom, and we bring that message here. That is our job as ambassadors, to represent that kingdom and that king, and not the world's, at all. All right, Mel, any final words?
No, I really enjoyed this. I think we're probably going to have you back and do another touch base again, because I think we could kind of keep going with a lot of this stuff. I remember one of the things I wanted to mention, I should have mentioned at the beginning of the show, is one of our listeners, and we've talked with him before several times, just via email, but I was going to butcher his name, Gregory. It's Gregory in Hungarian.
There you go, Greg.
Again, I think he's in, I may get this right, Slovenia. And he just completed the Hungarian version of What Does God Want? The editors have kind of completed it, and we're going to be putting that on the website. But that's a great resource. I think it's already in Supernatural is already there, but he was doing What Does God Want? I think it's a great resource. And so for some of you that don't know this, if you go to the miqlat.org website, miqlat.org, and if you go to the menu and look at resources, down below there, you will see these are free, different translations of the book of Supernatural. And Supernatural is just a distilled, condensed version. It's like the Reader's Digest version of Unseen Realm. It kind of makes it makes the whole concept more accessible. It doesn't reference all the, the bibliography and all the resources because, it's more, I don't say an academic work, but kind of. Mm-hmm. But this is just like here's what you need to know. So Supernatural is for people that are probably maybe believers or maybe they're dabbling and they're just wondering about it, but it's really good. Multiple languages, even audiobooks. And then I think it's a great resource, and Rich can speak more to this, but the What Does God Want is kind of it's an outreach.
It was created
it's an outreach type tool to explain
it's created for a new believer. If you were a new believer, that's the whole point of that book is if you're a new believer, what I did was ask people, what do you wish you believed you'd been taught in your first year of Christianity? I spent 2 years doing that to find out, like, what do you wish you'd been taught? And almost everybody, what is in that book is what people wish they'd been showed, the story, the meta narrative, the overarching, because people don't know that. We get so bogged down in individual verses and ideas that we forget about the big picture, and everybody needs that in their head first.
Yeah.
It'll really benefit them.
It's so good. And it's very short, very digestible, very easily understood. And so we have that in multiple languages as well. And so you're free to download the PDF, the Word doc, and if you want to go out and print these as books in your own language to share with other people, you can do that.
Feel free.
We're trying to do that. Like what Greg has essentially asked, if we can help him with some of that, and we're gonna see what we can do. We haven't had that discussion yet, but
sure.
This is just a way to kind of answer those initial questions and kind of to Jeremy's point, kind of saying, hey, this is a real thing. This is real. And all these people that are kind of coming in, they know it's real. Why do you think there's so many movies out there that are about like aliens invading or like supernatural, all the superhero stuff?
Exactly.
There was some movie some time ago. I can't remember. It was I don't remember if it was Marvel or DC. But it had the characters, and I remember one of them was
the Eternals.
Yes, the Eternals, and I remember one of them, like the character's name was Gilgamesh, and I was like,
Gilgamesh.
They could not make it any more overt,
Yeah.
And this broad who's over here, he's the bad guy.
Yeah,
but they used to hide that stuff. Yeah. That stuff used to be hidden a lot in movies.
Yeah.
Like those ideas and things like that. Me and Mike used to talk about this all the time. It was very fascinating in 2013 when we came together and be like, here's what we've seen in all of this. And then within a decade, all of a sudden it's just so blatant.
Just out there.
It's huge.
Just right there in front of your face.
So everyone knows, even the believers that are sitting in the pew that are uncomfortable with it, they're fascinated by these movies and these TV shows.
Yeah.
It's just that they don't want it. They don't have an answer for it. They're uncomfortable with it. And this is, I want to say, like, this is kind of your, this is your gateway drug, to the topic, to kind of understanding it. And everyone, a lot of people have these data points already floating around in their head, but they just haven't had someone come along with a reasonable way of connecting the dots that is in a way that's meaningful and is cohesive and makes sense.
Yeah.
And these tools kind of give these books, these resources are the tool to help you connect those dots. So,
and in speaking with Jeremy, when I was talking with him, I mean, again, like the international community that exists within Calgary, I guarantee that there are some Chinese, and some other people there that we have those translations and languages. That's what I was talking to him. Like, when I want to go up there, I hope I can go do a little bit of that, because that's, there is far more diversity than right here where I'm. There's some in Knoxville, Tennessee, but
Canada really is like, we're incredible. People are blown away when they come. We are so diverse. You see people from every tribe and tongue, literally every culture you can. There's someone here.
And honestly, like, I'm comfortable because I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, where that was normal. Like, that is a normal world for me. To walk around in that is where I'm comfortable. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I'd like to leave everyone with these two things. The first thing that I would say is, you were talking about Harold and, being Mike's bro. I was always coming up with nicknames. That's what you do, or ways to identify each other. Everyone's heard Pinky and the Brain and Hulk and Bruce Banner. The two of the other ones, one I called him Prometheus. Like how Prometheus, because he was like, why you call me Prometheus? I said, because you stole fire from the gods and gave it to man, bro. And he just laughed. He's like, his only response was, I'll accept it. And I was like, oh, right, But the other one was, I was the Silver Surfer and he was Galactus. Because, I was always out there introducing people to his stuff. And then if I could get them to meet Mike, Mike would just eat their world and, and spit it out anew in the blessing way. But I watched Mike crush worlds. Yeah. People would just think these things and he would talk to them and they would just be crushed. And then the last thing is, please pray for it. And remember that on May 2nd and 3rd, we're going to be trying to do this. Please pray for it. If you would like an early sign up, which you're welcome to do, you can email us at miclotrich@gmail.com. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I appreciate having you.
Appreciate it. Really glad you came on. Thanks for connecting to us and starting the conversation, brother. We'll stay in touch.
All right. Bless you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time. We'll see you later.